Dear audience, this video is aimed at intermediate to advanced learners of Photoshop. There is vocal commentary on the time-lapse, but hereby I claim that the video is speed art and not 100% step-by-step follow-along tutorial. Due to the long length of the video, it is not possible to share the work process without speed up, but you can quite benefit from this as well if you have a proper knowledge of using Photoshop already. Welcome back, you creative people. Today we are gonna go over how this image was made and maybe we'll learn a couple of new things together as well. So let's get started. So y'all really thought I was sitting in the bathtub. Well, the truth is that nope, this guy was.
You suck!
So we got a clean head swap going on in here. Yeah, I know, it looks cool. And this guy does not have that much of a face because I erased it just to fit mine. But yeah, that's okay. And I used curves to match up the lighting of my face just to drag the blacks up like that. Well, that depends on the image, but in this case, it just didn't need that much of adjustment. And also match the color, tweak the green channels a little bit, tweak the blue channels a little bit. We don't need extreme adjustments many times. So after that, I added a TV on the bathtub, some candles, and a shoe on the floor, and let's go with the rest of the scene. I wanted a half open door right behind me because I wanted the tentacles to come out of it. So I found some stock photo of doors from Shutterstock, and it's crazy, you can literally find anything in Shutterstock. So yeah, I added a door to my scene. And remember, if your object has a shadow, always cut it out with the original shadow. It's gonna make your life a lot easier. And I added the door right behind me, and I masked out some areas from the wall to make the door half open. I put a green solid color behind the door because I knew it was going to be some green lights coming out of it. And a bunch of tentacles again from Shutterstock.com. Man, I love this website, and it was really hard to mask them out. I think Shutterstock needs to give away PNGs because it's really hard to mask out the background sometimes because these tentacles are so detailed, so I had to spend a good amount of time trying to mask them out. But after that, I was able to successfully add a bunch of tentacles to my scene, put them through the door like they're coming out of the door, and I really like the results right there. Well, the placement of these tentacles in the image, well, not tentacles, literally every object or element in the scene, it all depends on you. It's your creativity. Also, you need to have a little knowledge of perspective, so your elements will look real as you add them to the scene, but most of it is just artistic. So feel free to do anything you want with your image. Anything you think will look good will definitely look good to others as well. I still needed to add a wine glass to the scene because, you know, this image was royal. And also I placed it on the edge of the bathtub and used the puppet warp to adjust it and make it sit up there. If you don't know how to use the puppet warp, learn it. It is so useful. It's so close to the warp tool, but it gives you much more control. And a couple of cool, creepy looking bottles. I got them from deviantart.com. You can really find great stock right there, and it's all for free. Of course, if they need distribution, you need to provide the link to the creator and give credits. but many of them are just free with a Creative Commons license, so it's just a great website for you if you don't want to pay any extra fees for a premium website membership. I highly recommend it. And here's how you can make your bottle see-through, so you can see through it and see the floor actually. So you're gonna get a copy of your bottle and put the lower copy to multiply blend mode and mask out the upper copy so that the lower one becomes visible, and just paint with a brush on your upper copy, which is the normal blend mode, so that the lower copy, which is the multiply blend mode, becomes visible. And that's how you can make a bottle see-through. Actually any transparent object, not just the bottle. You can make another copy and change its blend mode to screen and use blend if to remove it from the dark areas so that your bottle does not look so dark. And you already know how to paint shadows for an object. If you don't know, you can watch my tutorial dedicated to painting realistic shadows. Check the link in the description. And just like that, I added 2 more bottles exactly with the same techniques. So a quick recap is that you bring the bottle in, you make a copy, put one to multiply blend mode and keep the upper one to normal blend mode, and then you mask out the one with the normal blend mode so that the multiply becomes visible. You can also make a duplicate of the multiply one and put it to screen and remove it from the dark areas using blend if so that it becomes a little brighter and adds a little highlights. And then you paint shadows with the techniques that I have taught you in my other tutorial, and that's it. I added some PNG of flames to my candles. Many guys think they need to create the flames inside Photoshop, but no, really, you can use PNGs as well. It's alright. To create the glow that's shining through the door, I created a new layer and filled it with black and put the blend mode to color dodge, and I painted with green on it. That's a pretty famous technique that I have been using in all my composites for a little while, and it's pretty effective and efficient. Highly recommended. And to create more glow, I created another layer on top of it with linear dodge blend mode and added some more green on top of it. This is pretty much how I make my glows always. That's how I do it. And right now I'm color matching the tentacles. I'm making them look green. By the way, if you want a color matching tutorial, drop a comment down below and I'll make an ultimate color matching tutorial in Photoshop for you guys. Hope it will solve all your problems. And for painting the highlights on them, I'm just using the same old technique that I taught you about. It's just a normal layer with a normal brush and a normal blend mode, and just a little bit of skill about drawing. And to paint shadows on an object, you just clip a layer to it and paint with black onto it. Well, yeah, that's how simple it is. Now I'm gonna be painting highlights onto my face and my body with the same techniques that I have already talked about. If you want to know more in depth about these techniques, make sure to check the links in the description. It's gonna take you directly to those highlighting tutorials that I have, and I'm sure they will teach you a lot. But right now you can just watch me in action how I do it in my own composites. On that tiger, 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 on that tiger. It's always a good thing to study shadows and highlights and practice them and just look at the shadows and highlights in real life and understand how they act and react to each other so that you can easily implement the same principles in your own composition. So here you constantly are going to be seeing me painting shadows all over the place because they are really important, and shadows are the brains to your composite. If you want to paint highlights on an object that is not isolated, you can easily select the area that you want to paint highlights on with the pen tool and paint your highlights, and then you can deselect. It's not necessary to make a selection of the whole thing. This is what I do all the time. I just make selections with the pen tool, I draw my highlights, and then I deselect, and I don't save the selection because that's not really necessary. This is a stamp. I found it in Google Images, and I want to use it as a representation of the clone stamp tool in Photoshop, and I want to put it in the tentacles hand. What the fuck? The tentacles hand. Do tentacles have hands? They don't. They are hands actually. And please, whenever you add a new object to your composition, do not forget the shadows and the highlights. Super important thing. Then I typed in clone, chose a proper font, and then put it on the stamp so that it's obvious that it's a clone stamp. Does that make sense? It's a stamp, and I typed clone on it, so it's a clone stamp. And I adjusted the word using the warp tool, and then I put a brush in the other tentacle so it represents the brush tool. Yeah, I'm so innovative. Damn. And here I'm gonna be honest, I was so confused when I was trying to put this brush through the tentacle. I didn't know what areas to mask out and what areas to keep, so yeah. These things happen, totally normal. And here's an eraser in respect of the great eraser tool in Photoshop. Please, everybody be quiet now. I hold high respect for the eraser tool. I believe it's one of the most useful tools in Photoshop, even though it's underrated, but I know how much it's worth it. And whatever you do, wherever you are, and whoever you're with, do not forget my advice. Whenever you import a new element into your composition, the first thing you do is painting the highlights and the shadows. Thank you. You remember how I make highlights, right? Create a layer, fill it up with black, change the blend mode to color dodge, paint with the color you want, and put some other layers on top of it with the linear dodge, blend mode, or the screen blend mode, and you're gonna have a really beautiful and realistic spotlight or highlight or a source of light. And you also remember how I paint highlights on a specific object when I don't have any selections. Yes, make a selection with the pen tool, paint your highlight, then deselect easily. And I used the gradient tool to paint highlights on this bathtub, and I refined it with the brush tool. If you don't know how the gradient tool works with painting highlights, you can watch my other highlighting tutorial, to which the link is in the description. Check it out. And I used a light ray overlay to create the light radiation off of the TV screen. I could have created the light all inside the Photoshop, but I guess it's a lot easier to just use overlays. It's a time saver. And whenever you add a new light source to your photo, there are gonna be new highlights as well. So I added a new light source, which is the TV screen, so I'm gonna need new highlights which are gonna be shining upon these tentacles and the objects that are in the direction of the TV screen. And these melting candle ends, is that even a word? I added these separately for each candle because I want them to kind of be melting down the edge of the bathtub, so it looks kind of more artistic. And this is the last tentacle I added with a bucket, which is going to be representing the bucket tool. And there's going to be paint in it because these tentacles are painting the walls. You're going to see in a minute. If you ask me, the most comforting and relaxing part of any composition is painting the highlights. It really cheers me up and cools me down because that's my favorite part. It's so calming, especially if you're working with a graphic tablet. It's kind of feel like drawing with a pen and paper, and it's so good. And painting highlights really needs a thinking. When you're painting highlights and shadows, you gotta think about how these are gonna be painted, how light and shadow really act in real world, and that's the challenging part. But as you paint and think, it really comforts your brain. It's a great feeling. Remember to use overlays in your composition, and if needed, change their light and colors because that really gives your composition some life. And also don't forget to paint some fog and smoke in your composition because that also gives your image some depth and some more extra life. You can use any fog brush or even a normal brush to paint the fog and smoke effect, or you can use smoke and fog overlays, that's on you. I rather use a brush because I like the feeling of drawing it.
Ding